Hey y'all, I'm Paula Deen. Everybody knows that a meal just ain't complete without dessert. So I'm gonna devote this entire episode to those sweet endings that can make your meal memorable. First, I'm gonna be making a sinful raspberry sherry trifle with layers of fruit and custard and cream. Next, I'm gonna have a twist on a traditional eclair. And this ain't your grandma's recipe. This is an eclair cake. And just in case that's not rich enough, I'm gonna be making a peanut butter and cheese fudge that's guaranteed to hit the spot. So get ready, everybody, to indulge, because there's about to be a sugary buffet coming y'all's way. You know, some days it's hard for me to believe that I'm working. Well, today is one of those days, because guess what today's show is? It's sweet endings. That's right, everything I'm making today is sweet. But in order to get to those sweet endings, we got to have a beginning. So why don't we start today with probably one of my favorite trifles. It's a raspberry sherry trifle. Now for our trifle, I've started by baking off a yellow butter cake mix. Just an ordinary box cake mix that you get at your grocery store, and it should be ready. I've baked it in a 13 by 9 by 2 pan, and I'm gonna pull it out and let it cool while we're making our custard. This smells really, really good. The cake has moved away from the side of the pan, and that lets me know that the cake is done. So we're just gonna leave that sitting right here, let it cool, and I'm gonna step over to the stove and I'm gonna start the custard for our raspberry trifle. I've got me a glass bowl and I've placed it over hot water. Now it's important that you don't let the water touch the bottom of your bowl. Now I'm just gonna bring that up to a boil. I've got 7 egg yolks in my bowl, and to that I'm gonna add 3/4 of a cup of sugar. Okay, I'm just gonna beat that up. And to this, I'm gonna add 1 cup of sherry. Now it's very important that you don't use a cooking sherry. If it's not good enough for you to pour into a glass and drink, then don't put it in your food. Now I'm just gonna mix these up, and we're gonna cook it for about 8 minutes over the boiling water until it kind of looks like mayonnaise. So what are we gonna do for 8 minutes, y'all? How about if we chat? I wanna show y'all something that came in the mail today. This very day, it came in the mail today. Take a look over here to my right. Would you believe it's a Paula Deen doll? A girl sent that to me today, and let's see, certificate of authenticity. This doll is from Woodland Face Angel Doll Collection. And Paula Deen has received a full facial repaint, which I needed so bad. I appreciate that one. This doll is an original design by the artist Gail Jaber, otherwise known as Gabby. Gabby, thanks so much. I couldn't believe it. All right, now that's been whisked up real well. And in the meantime, I've already got a batch of the cream made that's been put in the refrigerator and cooled. So it's ready for us to put together. And you can see the consistency of it. All right, now I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna take 2 cups of heavy cream. And I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of powdered sugar. Now I'm gonna beat this until it forms stiff peaks. Now, if you wanna ensure yourself that your whipping cream turns out perfectly, you'll wanna use a chilled bowl. And you want to chill your beaters. And you see how I stand back so I won't get whipping cream all over my clothes. All right, so I'm gonna sit that to the side for a second and bring in our cold custard. Now I'm gonna take about half of our heavy cream and I'm gonna fold it in to our custard. And when I say fold, that means you'll want to take your spatula, go down and over. And that whipping cream is gonna make your custard light. All right, now I'm gonna come over here and get our cake. Bring it over here. And you can just cut this or tear it into small kind of 1-inch pieces. And you can see that the bowl I selected for my trifle is a glass bowl. It's just real neat looking. Kind of shows it off really, really good. All right, so we're gonna do 1/3 of the cake. And now I'm gonna come up here because the next step is gonna be our raspberries. And I'm using 3 10-ounce boxes of frozen raspberries that have been thawed. If you don't like raspberries, you can always use blueberries or strawberries. All right, now I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna put a layer of custard. Why don't y'all go get you something to drink while I finish putting our trifle together, and when we come back, I'm gonna be making a Eclair cake that's really, really delicious. And then even later on, I'm gonna take three ingredients that are probably some of my favorites, and I'm gonna combine them all into one kick butt dessert. So I'll see y'all back in a few minutes. Hey, while y'all were gone, I finished getting the trifle together. Look how beautiful it looks. Look at that, y'all. I got a little bit of raspberry. That's so delicious. If you're a raspberry fan, this is gonna be right up there among your favorites. It's truly delicious. And guess what I'm making next, y'all? I'm gonna be making a Eclair cake. Now, I've gotten my casserole dish buttered, and I'm gonna line it with graham crackers. And you just do this any way you can. If they overlap, you know, it's all right. Just however you need to get the job done. All right, now we've got our crust ready. And that was very, very simple, wasn't it? Kind of crust I like. Now we're gonna come over to this bowl, and I'm gonna take instant French vanilla pudding, and I'm gonna mix that with 3½ cups of milk. All right, I'm gonna beat this for about 2.5 minutes. Now, if for some reason you don't like instant puddings, you can get the cooked type pudding. And just need to let that cool though before you put it together. All right, that looks great. Now I'm gonna take a small container of frozen whipped topping that's been thawed, and I'm gonna take this and fold it in. And you don't have to be extremely careful with this because that whipped topping's not gonna break. Really, about the only way it would break is if you hadn't thawed it well and you tried to stir it, it would just deflate on you, just down to nothing. Now that's the custard part of our eclair. We've got our crust, we've got our custard, and now if you'll move on down here with me, we're gonna make the chocolate part of our eclair. So I've got my confectionate sugar, and that's 1½ cups, and then I've got 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa. And I'm just gonna stir those 2 ingredients together, and then I'm gonna run them through my little strainer just to make sure that I get all the lumps out of them. Today is such a beautiful day. It's been so windy here the last couple of days, so I'm really glad to see that the wind's died down and the sun is out. All right, now I've got our cocoa and our powdered sugar mixed together. Now I'm going to take 3 tablespoons of room temperature butter, and I'm going to cut into our dry ingredients. Now I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons of a white corn syrup. All right, that felt about like 2 teaspoons. And now I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla flavoring. And I'm just going to mix that up. I think I'm going to use like 1/3 cup of milk. And if it's still too thick for you, then just add a little bit more milk. Oh, it's looking good. Don't you just love it when you can find a 10-minute dessert like this that you can whip together at the last minute? All right, now we're going to come back over here and we're going to put a layer of our custard over our first layer of graham crackers. And I'm going to kind of gently just spread it over those crackers. All right. Now we're going to make another layer using our graham crackers. All right, now we're going to come back with the rest of our cream filling over that second layer of graham crackers. This kind of reminds me a little bit, these steps right here kind of remind me a little bit of Nacho Mama's banana pudding. We're going to spread that out again. All right. Now one more layer of crust. All right, now we're going to grab our chocolate filling that we just mixed up. And you can see the consistency of our chocolate. And then we're just going to drizzle it. We're just going to drizzle it over those graham crackers. Now this is going to tighten up some, y'all, because we're going to put this in the refrigerator and let it chill. So you can see now why this is called an eclair cake. You know, this is truly like a 5 or 10-minute dessert. I think the family will love it, especially chocolate lovers. And it'll be a lot easier than getting in there and making your traditional eclairs. So I'm going to cover this and put it in the refrigerator. And when we come back, one of my desserts that contain like 3 of my favorite foods. So I want you to come back with me and let me share this recipe with you. And then after that, what if things go wrong? Well, I'm going to see if I can help you fix it. I'll see y'all back in a couple of minutes. I told y'all about my 3 favorite ingredients. Well, here they are. It's butter, cheese, and peanut butter. Now, I know y'all are thinking, Paula, what are you fixing to do next? Well, I'm fixing to make us a quick, delicious peanut butter cheesy fudge. And you're not going to believe how quick this is going to come together. And I'm going to melt a 1/2 pound of processed cheese and give that a little head start because that takes longer to melt than our butter does. So I'm just going to give that a little head start. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and add the butter. And I'm just going to stir this. And this is probably the longest step to making this peanut butter fudge is melting that cheese. Now, I have to tell you that I want to talk about the recipe a minute and tell you where it came from. A friend of mine sent this to me quite a few years ago, this recipe for cheese fudge. And I just couldn't believe it when I made it, that it was so wonderful. So I made it with the cocoa and the nuts, and I said, you know, this would really be good to use this basic same recipe, except leave out the cocoa and add peanut butter and make peanut butter fudge. Well, I tried it and it was perfectly delicious. And the cheese and the butter has finally melted. Now I'm gonna take it off the heat and I'm gonna pour this over 2 1-pound boxes of confectionate sugar. But before I do that, I'm gonna throw in this peanut butter, so that won't take that but a second to melt down. Now I'm gonna pour our butter and our cheese and our peanut butter into our powdered sugar. And I'm gonna add a cup of nuts. Now I'm gonna be adding chopped pecans, but if you wanted to, because you're using peanut butter, you could add chopped peanuts, and that would be real good also. And I'm gonna toss in 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And this is kind of a messy job, but really there's a reward at the end because you get to lick your fingers. Because about the only way to really get this mixed together real good is to get in there with your hands. And I think I'm just about to that point. And in we go. And you can see how stiff this is. But the heat from my hands just breaks down that confectionery sugar very quickly. Because you see, if I would have kept trying to stir that in, it would have taken so much longer. All right. Now I'm going to take an 8x8 pan and I'm going to give it a spray because I want this. I got a lot of butter in there, but I still want to make sure that when I go to cut my fudge, that it comes out nice and easy. So I'm just going to transfer that to my dish and press it. And if you find when you get through patting it out that you feel like there's too much butter, although I've never heard of such a thing, you may think it is. So you can just take a paper towel and blot the top of your candy just like that. All right, I'm gonna put this in the refrigerator and it's not gonna have to sit hardly any time before I can cut it. And when I come back, I'm gonna be tasting all these things because y'all don't know and I don't know if I've made them right, do we? So I gotta taste them. And also I'm gonna help you out with some solutions to problems that you may have in the kitchen. You know, I don't think there's anything more aggravating than being in the middle of a recipe only to find that you're missing an ingredient. So I hope a few of these substitutes that I have for you today will help you out when you're in a crunch. Say, for instance, a recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of flour. You don't have flour. Well, not to worry, you can substitute that with 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. All right, you've pulled out that cake mix, you're all ready to go, only to find you don't have oil and eggs. Don't worry about that either, because 1 cup of yogurt is the perfect substitute for your oil and your eggs. I'm forever running out of milk, so to get that 1 cup of milk, all I have to do is take a 1/2 cup of evaporated milk, add a 1/2 cup of water to it, and I've got 1 cup of whole milk. Like I said, I hope these will help you out when you've got an emergency. What a perfect setting for some sweet endings. I swear to Pete, I have had the best time today. And you know what? Out of all the desserts I've made today, I don't know which I like the best, the raspberry and cherry trifle or the Eclair cake or this peanut butter fudge. I really don't know. You know, I've got a great diversified taste for all palates. For the chocolate lover, that tastes so much like an Eclair. And the trifle, if you like raspberries, you're gonna love this dish. But you know, Cody, I think that maybe the peanut butter fudge may be my favorite. Tell me what you think. What you think, buddy? Is it good? I hope y'all will use these recipes and love them as much as my family does. So until next time, y'all, the dogs and I would love to send you love and best dishes from our sweet endings to yours. Here you go.